Hey, since Be Your Hero fans, this is Chris Bolts, and I'm coming in with an episode review of this week's episode, simply episode 10. Now, before I do get into the content, do make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. All that stuff really helps me out. Now, what you're looking at right here is Frenchie and Captain Kivia going over some of the things inside of Sodric's office, and you see that they have a recall, rather, of Sodric dropping the name of Mahazel Zykov, and that appears to be a code name, if you will. If you saw last week's episode, it had sparked some interest within Kivia, especially the last name Zykov. Mahazel happens to be the name of a saint that is revered by the temple, but the last name Zykov really made her stop and think, and it really put her on edge. So after last week's episode and the one before that, which were really action focused, now we're kind of taking a seat back to the action, where we're going back to doing a lot of the lore building within the series here, trying to get more of the characters reintroduced. In fact, this episode actually introduces us to the next character that's going to be coming in. This is where we are introduced to Rhino, and this guy right here is Rhino. Now, one thing about Rhino is he is a volunteer hero. Now, I don't know what that exactly means within the context of the series, if that means if he actually voluntarily decided to go ahead and join the hero forces, if he was a prisoner and he decided to volunteer in that regard, or if he's a free man and he decided to volunteer to be part of the hero corps. Whatever the case may be, Rhino is known as a volunteer hero, and he has some commie traits about him. He loves calling everyone a comrade. He believes in shared sacrifice and shared pain. In fact, later in the episode, he comes up with a plan that says, hey, you know what could really get some of the people motivated and involved with the war effort is to go in there and blow up blow up a wall that just allows a lot of the fairies just to come in there and start getting at them, and that is one way to get them involved in the fight. Xylo instead says that no, that's not how you can go ahead and get people involved. The best way to get people involved is not through any type of shared bond. It's actually through people's wallets, through people's profit motive. So you got two competing, differing philosophies here. Rhino saying that pain and suffering should be shared equally if it's a beautiful thing and it strengthens bonds. Terra Rita does not like Rhino, and she's more in line with Xylo's philosophy, in that we don't want to have people forced into conscription either through force or through mandate by the government. So again, that's a really cool differing philosophies there with regards to the ideas of Xylo and Rhino, and this kind of shows why there's so much conflict and tension between the two. Rhino does try his best to try to be more on the sympathetic side of Xylo there. Venetim is another cool character. We've all been familiar with him before. Venetim has a very silver tongue. Uses that tongue to get the things that he wants. Two examples in here. One was to get Rhino out of prison. The other one is to go over here and try to get Jace's dragon to serve as part of the unit within the confines of Eos City, within the walls of Eos City. Normally that's not allowed. Get that unit approved. There was some intrigue between Kivia and Venetim, and it comes back to this little situation right here where Venetim says give his regards to her uncle, High Priest Marlin, and it just sets her off. She just gets really pissed, really angry. Venetim and her second in command don't know why she's getting angry, but there's a reason why that she's getting angry like this. And it goes back to the name of Mahazel Zykov. I think probably what is going on here with regards to the political intrigue as we get over here to the ending, I'm just going to go forward here. I think the Zykov is a family name that is associated with her, and then Mahazel is like, as I mentioned before, is a revered temple saint. And we're going to see right here that High Priest Marlin, her uncle, is going to make a open prayer to the Saint Mahazel. As you see right there, may Saint Mahazel protect us. That comes back over here to why she kind of blew up at Venetim when he mentioned, give my regards to your uncle, because she has a feeling that he's involved in this in some kind of way as well. There was a breach by the fairies into the city. We know from the last episode, Spriggan is making moves, but someone is commanding Spriggan, and Spriggan obviously is commanding Bujum, the Iron Whale, and Shiji Bao to work on her behalf, that little nice child villain. But Venator made a strange request to go ahead and block off the waterway. Bujum is acting in that regard, though the reason why he had asked for that, it was tied in relation to High Priest Marlin. Now, the reason why High Priest Marlin is making these kinds of moves is, if you go over here and notice the scene right here, the military and the temple are now joined in forces. So was that one of the reasons why Marlin is involved in this in some kind of form or fashion? Is he trying to consolidate power underneath himself between the temple and the military? Normally the military and the temple are at odds with one another, but now High Priest Marlin is saying that this is no time to be butting heads. So the political intrigue within the anime is now making itself manifest. We have a lot of things going on right here. I originally thought this episode was just going to be a lighter episode, if you will, because normally after you have really big action-packed episodes, if you have so much action, you got to give your viewer reprieve from so much action and give them a chance to go ahead and digest everything that came before it. This episode was probably 70-30. Actually, I'd probably say more like 80-20, 90-10, 90-10 story and the actions. We saw some action here with the invasion of the fairies into the city. We see Rhino in action his first time. He's wearing this armor that Xylo said is an older generation model of armor Rhino is wearing here. It's very effective. Shoots out a really big caliber bullet that creates a mini type of explosion. Tatsuya obviously getting into some action. Teorito and Xylo getting into some action and everything. So it was still pretty light on action. Yeah, I would say about 90-10. 90-10. Nope. Actually, maybe 75-25. 75% story, world building lore, things of that nature, and then 25% action. That sounds about a little better. We'll settle on 75-25. This was a really good way to let the audience kind of get a breath there, but then keep them back involved with just enough action and start weaving those political strings that were being set all the way from the beginning of episode 1. We know that the coexisters are there. We know that like I said, there's some tensions between the military and the temple. A faction wanted Teorita gone, and it was not necessarily another temple faction. I think it was the coexisters. That's been established. So those things are starting to get pulled out right here, and this is the 10th episode. I think there's only 12 episodes, so there's 2 episodes remaining for the season, and it is picking up. It is really good. Normally, one of my regulars made mention of the fact that the earlier episodes, I said that they're focusing too much on story and not enough on action. He was saying that, well, there was action. They was like, nah, the action that were in the first episodes, I would not really even classify as action. I would just classify it more as just minor skirmishes, if you will. But the remaining episodes that have been just jam-packed with action, and the story is still there. The story, don't get me wrong, the story has always been there for Sentence to be a Hero. It's just that the action has not been there. And I said that, I've always stood by this and said it before, this series requires more action than story, and lately Studio Kai has really been doing that, has really been going in there and giving us more action than story, but then also giving us the proper types of pauses and reprieves from the action, like this episode did right here, before keeping us within that loop of the action and introducing that political intrigue. So I always like to say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Sentence to be a Hero had a very strong start. Then it kind of tapered off. It was pretty disappointing there for a minute. But now the later episodes are starting to pick up, and they are just sitting there in the stratosphere. Really good episode this one was, again. I like all the weaving of the political intrigue within the action and the nice build out of the story and the lore and the introduction of Rhino. All really good stuff. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I'll give this a 9 out of 10. A really good episode. Can't wait to see more of what the final 2 episodes have in store for us rather. So what do you guys think about this episode? Whatever your guys' thoughts, jump down in the comments and let me know what you guys think of this episode. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. All that stuff really does help me out. And remember, this is Chris Bolts signing off, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy.